Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Pilot Money Guys podcast, where our mission is to help clients build and protect wealth to achieve their dreams and goals. This podcast is brought to you by Leading Edge Financial Planning. Without further ado, here is your host, Robert Eklund.
Welcome to WKRP and the Pilot Money Guys. A tip of the cap to you. Thank you for joining us here. And now that you're here, we're going to talk a little flying, and we aim to bring you some lighthearted financial fun. I'm your host, wealth manager, Rob Eklund, a.k.a. Rubber Mallet, coming to you from colorful Colorado. Flight crew today is, of course, the Godfather, former F-16 fighter pilot, and certified financial planner, Charlie Mattingly. Welcome, Godfather.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
And our executive producer, who puts his pants on, same as you and me, except after he puts on his pants, he makes gold-plated podcasts. Mr. Cowbell, the Ben Dickinson. Welcome, Cowbell.
Nice.
One of the best intros so far, Rob. I really appreciate that.
Gold-plated diapers?
Look, I may be young,
what does that mean? Yeah, now, Ben and Charlie, you're coming from us from Tasty, Tennessee. Is that what, do I have the right description there?
Tasty, Tennessee.
Tasty, Tennessee.
Tennessee,
did you know what Tennessee is most known for? Do you guys know?
Dolly Parton.
Whiskey.
Hot chicken. It all started back in the 1930s when womanizer Thornton Prince discovered his love for spicy chicken, among other things. And country music, and church communities, whiskey, barbecue, and rolling hills. Pretty much the same thing as Colorado, really.
What?
Hey, that hot chicken doesn't mess around, though. Prince's hot chicken, if you're ever pass through Nashville, don't go with the spiciest. Don't do it.
Don't do it?
No.
What do you go with?
Too hot.
What's the best?
You got to go with mild if you're me, but
mild hot chicken? That doesn't sound right.
I've gotten
can
hotter.
We fire Ben as executive producer? I think he just
mild hot. Mild hot. Mr. Prince had it going on.
Okay.
Dangerous.
I'm going to throw out some trivia, and I think I could be wrong, but I'm going to throw it anyway. No. Mountain Dew was invented in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Really?
I heard that.
Mm-hmm.
There's not even mountains there.
Yeah, just the Appalachians. They're not real mountains.
They're not compared
Can
to
somebody
Rockies.
Google that and make sure I'm right? I think I'm right.
No, it's true. It's true.
Right.
I saw an article the other day in the paper.
They're selling his house like this. The biggest mansion in Tennessee is being sold, and it was the founder or the inventor of Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew? Ah, that's a good one. Do the do.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Bush's baked beans too, and Gatorade.
Gatorade? I thought that was Florida.
Wait, Gatorade?
The guy,
really?
the dude's name was Stokely in Knoxville. Remember Stokely Athletic Center, Ben?
Yes.
They invented it. Florida stole it. Fact check me on that.
No, don't fact check. I like that. I don't want it to be fact checked. I like it better that way.
And they named it Gatorade because all the Gators in Tennessee.
Right.
They needed some help. We'd put the hurting on them for a while.
So we threw out some history there. That's awesome. We've got a lot of other history to go through too, though, right?
Let's hit it. Aviation news. You guys want to do some aviation news? All right, we're going to talk SkyWest right now. They're offering up to $25,000 in bonuses and tuition reimbursement for military aviators. I think that's rotor guys. But they're also, and I guess they've been doing this a while, I just am catching on right now. They're doing a year-for-year match. So if you have experience in the 121 carrier world, all pilots except Charlie knows this, 121 year for year, they'll bring you over 9-year FO. They'll bring you over at 9-year FO at SkyWest. And I think they're doing even more than that. But
121,
that's pretty impressive.
121, that's like Cessna 172. Cargo?
Yeah, I think so. The other news, this one's pretty big. Sun Country, the pilots of Sun Country Airlines will soon get a significant pay bump if their union members approve an agreement reached with the company. And this is a quote from one of their union representatives. By the 4th year of the contract, the pay rates, especially at the top end of the scale for the most senior captains, are above Delta Airlines.
What?
Sun Country taking over Delta Airlines. We can stop right there. Yeah.
Blown up.
For the same airplane, 737s.
The airline world is getting all shook up.
Yeah.
I heard the other day that some pilots were leaving, some young new pilots were leaving our favorite airline, I'm going to name names, for Frontier and Spirit.
No.
Yes.
Those frontier tray tables, that's I can't do that.
The world of airlines is getting turned upside down. It's crazy.
Oh, that's crazy.
Wow.
The last one here I've got is the infrastructure bill, which was finally passed by both houses of Congress. And we're talking airports, which are in quite disrepair in a lot of airports. We've seen some airports like New York, LaGuardia have come out. San Francisco's got some new terminals as well. But of the $550 billion of new spending, only $25 billion of that will go to airports, while the rest of the funding will go to bridges, roads, and electrical grid, broadband, and other projects. So I don't know how much of that 25 bill will go, how far that will go for new airports and terminals and whatnot. But that's what it is.
I hope
You guys got anything else?
I hope it goes
Oh.
to internet to Maryville, Tennessee. I don't have internet in my house.
You don't have internet in your house?
No. Wait.
Hey, look, this
Do
is
you have-
Tennessee,
it's
Rob.
awful.
You don't realize we just got computers.
You have some mild hot chicken at your house, though? At least?
No.
Maybe some Gatorade?
I like some mild hot chicken. That hot chicken's too hot. I got to tell you. I couldn't
yeah,
eat it.
yeah, you get mild. Hey, I got some news out of the crypto corner. Can I throw
Ooh,
this out there?
Yes,
Yeah.
this is crazy. Say it.
Okay, all right. If you're a crypto person, you may have heard about Satoshi Nakamoto. He's the guy who, this mystical figure who
Yeah.
invented Bitcoin, wrote the white paper. All right. Well, recently there's been developments that Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto. He's an Australian dude, almost like an Elon Musk figure to me. He's like an evil genius, it seemed. But there's a lot of tension in the crypto world because people don't
Wow.
want it to be him. They think it's somebody else. But if you're a crypto person, it's worth checking out. Listen to Craig and listen to what his original vision on on Bitcoin was, and hear a little bit about that. At least get a little perspective on it, because I think it's really interesting. And this is big news in the crypto world.
It's a game
So,
changer.
I
Ooh.
personally, this is
Drum roll.
dangerous for me to put this out here. I believe Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto.
Oh, what?
I could
No.
cancel.
And-
that. I could cancel
And
that.
he's a pastor.
Jeez.
and he's a pastor. Yes.
So
What?
he
Yes.
is the Bitcoin Jesus follower.
Yeah.
Really? Literally.
You can't use
I'm-
that.
I
You can't
know,
use that
I'm-
anymore, man.
I'm a little bit concerned. I'm going to get sued for that.
Yeah, we
The
didn't
dude,
know.
though, yes.
We didn't know.
And if that alone should let you say research it. There's a train.
Oh.
Ignore that. Tyler, cut that out.
Possible
Just want to
train.
make sure everyone knows we're coming to you live.
Yeah.
Yes. Straight from the rail yards here in Knoxville.
Yeah.
But anyway,
That's-
all right. That's into the crypto.
Yeah,
corner.
that could be a
Wow.
whole book. That's going to be fascinating to see how
Yeah.
that plays out. But I did call the
There'll be a
top
movie
of
about it.
Bitcoin. Just
Yeah,
make
you
note
did.
of that. I did
Yeah.
call
Yeah.
it.
But
been rough.
here, biggest point though, I'll just say this really quick. When what Craig says, the end of crypto will come, and when it does, the only way you're gonna get out is if you can sell that crypto to someone else that's willing to pay more than you bought it for, because it's worth nothing else.
Craig
So,
said that?
yes, and he said when the crash comes, everyone's going to be no one's going to be buying it for more than you're selling it for. So you're just going to
Yep.
hold on until the bottom. That's what he says.
That's
is gonna happen.
Satoshi Nakamoto
Satoshi.
saying that?
What he said?
Yeah, and
Ooh.
he owns like $56 billion worth of crypto, or Bitcoin specifically. But
Is he
anyway, I'm
get-
just saying, just
Wow.
throwing that out there. He said it
It's-
won't go to
it's-
100,000 too. I'm just saying.
Interesting.
So at least give him
Wow.
a listen. It's worth it.
Yeah. Thanks, Cowbell.
Kind of a
Appreciate
crazy
it.
guy though.
Nice research on that.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Tip
Mr.
of the morning
Executive.
to you, as Rob would say.
Bringing news from the dark web to the podcast.
Charlie, what do you got? You got something.
Okay, I'm going to honor the ladies today that listen to our podcast, and the ladies in our lives. Right? We've got some powerful women in our lives. Rob, your wife is
my
an
wife,
author.
she just finished her
Amazing.
second book. It's published.
Amazing!
Open Bar. Check it out.
Wow,
Amazon. Ooh, that was
yeah,
her
that's
plug.
cool. So we all have talented ladies in our life. A lot of ladies listen to this podcast. Let me give a tip of the cap to my wife. Her name is Lisa,
Here, here.
and she's a foster mom. She's a mom. She's a teacher. She's amazing. So tip of the cap to my wife, and Ben, you can do the same to get some credit too, because if you don't, you get in trouble now.
Yeah, you're gonna
Yeah.
get in trouble.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let me just give a
Go
quick
ahead.
shout out to Erica.
There you go.
Hey, baby.
Nice job. But anyway, Our COO, Lisa, and I were talking this week about just women in business. And I've got 3 daughters. We're always trying to empower. We have women listeners that, even though the majority of pilots are men, we have a lot of female pilots. It's a great career field for women. Speaking of great career field for women, financial planning is a great career field for women. I encourage women to get in the business and come work for us as quickly as possible because they're awesome at this business. But what I want to do today is we have one special listener, and she's a doctor. I don't think she knows it, but she's like my kid's doctor. She doesn't know me, but her name is
Don't say her name.
Dr. Jane.
Oh yeah,
Dr. Jane.
For
Dr. Jane is
for
the
all
boss.
of our fans, she
Yeah.
would just get mobbed.
She would get mobbed.
Walking out of the
and we don't want
house.
That. Yeah, no more privacy
Security
for her. Dr.
guards.
Jane. And so I'm going to tell a story today to honor her. We're going to give her a call sign today because she mentioned to
she
Kevin
deserves
and
it.
Ben that she wants the call sign. So
the naming ceremony.
But this is a naming ceremony, as closest to one you'll get outside the military, and we're going to give you some insight to what this really looks like. But there's no booze here on this call right now, so that's the only difference. But at the same time, I want to honor the ladies because Dr. Jane, one of her favorite characters is G.I. Joe. So I said, all right, she likes warriors. So we're going to look at warriors, and this relates back to military history as well. And I looked up who are the greatest warriors of all time. All of them. And y'all could name a couple. I can't think of any off the top of my head. But Joan of Arc was in the top 25. She was the only female in the top 25. What's amazing about that? Women were not even allowed to be in combat until just recently. Just think if they were allowed to be in all that time. So I think
Viking women
could.
Some of my ancestors,
Yeah.
I think they fought, right?
Yeah.
At least according to the history.
Popular
Popular
mystery.
show.
All right.
Oh, my
So here
granny
we
was
go.
a fighter.
The
I'll tell you
popular
that
show,
much.
the Vikings.
All right, so let me read a little snippet about Joan of Arc. Not just a legendary female warrior, but also a Roman Catholic saint. Joan was but a girl when visions of the Archangel Michael drove her to approach the military of France's King Charles VII and offered to assist in his efforts to expel the occupying English in the later days of the 100 Years' War. Though initially mocked by these men and soldiers, Joan was taken seriously once her influence ended the siege of Orleans in 9 days. That's impressive. By age 17, she played a key role in commanding France's army, and her forte in the military seemed to be for strategy over slaying. The French owed much to Joan, and yet it was the Burgundians, I can't say that right, Frenchmen loyal to England that led to her demise. She was captured in 1430, and despite several escape attempts and rescue efforts, Joan was put on trial by the English for heresy and cross-dressing. I'm assuming that means because she had warrior gear on. Her visions were now derided, and her armor called an atrocity. She was convicted, sentenced to death, and burned alive at the stake. Even after her death, her strategies are said to have influenced the French battle model. More than 25 years later, the Catholic Church revisited Joan's trial for heresy, overturning the charges against her in a case of too little too late. It would be more than 460 years before Pope Benedict XV declared Joan a saint. All right.
I like it. That's
that's
tough
cool.
to beat.
That's pretty cool.
That really is.
That's
amazing.
I was going to come up with something different, but I don't think I can top that, Charlie. You got it. Dr. Arc.
Well,
Is that what we're calling?
So Dr. Jane of Arc.
Jane of Arc.
Dr. Jane of Arc. That is
Jane of
good.
Arc.
I like that.
Dr.
I'll
Jane of
allow it.
Arc. Yep. Now here's the thing.
Are
With
you
a
getting the
call
mallet
sign-
stamp of approval?
Well, we got
that
to
was
just
my
we gotta
mouth.
check.
hand sign on?
We got
I'll have my mouse.
it's
allowed.
Karate chop. So here's the thing about a call sign. It's Dr. Jane of Arc got a few too many syllables there, but I think that's the official for her because she's awesome.
Yes.
She's a doctor. She takes care of my kids. She doesn't know that, but she does. Dr. Jane of Arc is the official, but you can call her Arc for short. You're hanging around, you're just shout out her name.
Yeah.
Hey, Dr. Arc, whatever. Unless y'all,
Yeah.
this is your opportunity. You get 5 seconds of discussion time here before.
I had been thinking about
So-
that, but that's definitely the
Pretty
best
good.
one so
Okay.
far, and the history.
It's awesome.
Yeah. You backed
amazing.
it up with history.
That's
yeah,
right.
that's hard to
Facts.
beat.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
All
Art.
right.
That's good.
All right, Arc. Dr.
This one's for Arc.
Dr.
This
Jane
one's
of
for
Arc.
Arc.
It's official. You have a call sign. Thank you for listening. And And hats off to all the ladies
think
out there.
everyone
Yes.
we give a call sign to needs like a special something,
Send her
That's
a shirt.
true.
right?
Leading
shirt.
edge
Yeah.
shirt.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Well,
which,
maybe she can guide us on that. Maybe they
Yeah.
can. She might not
All right.
want the leading edge
we
shirt.
need to get her like a sword. That's what I was thinking after that
That's
speech.
what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
I got a horse I could give her. Emma, give Dr. Jane your horse, please.
Okay. Let's bring it down a notch and
All
get
right, let's
real for a second.
serious.
The holidays are upon us. And while you have family around, now's the time to think about why money is important to you. Is it so you can spend time with your family and friends guilt-free? Having the right financial guidance can lift that 1,000-pound gorilla off your shoulders you may not even realize is there. We stand ready to help as fiduciaries, providing objective, fee-only financial planning and investment management. Give us a holiday jingle at 865-240-2292 or hit us up on that old electronic mail at info@leadingedgeplanning.com. That's it. That's all I got. Let's get to it.
Nice. Love
Do
it.
it.
End of the year checklist. This, by the way, this is flight 22 already. I can't believe that.
Wow.
End of year checks. That's what we're talking about. Charlie, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, man, I got a lot to say today, so I'm going to talk for another hour or two, if you don't mind. But a lot of these things, if you hurry, you can do it. We've got, today's the 10th. We're going to quick turn this thing around with Tyler on the team now, and we're going to have it out mid-December so you can knock some of these things out. The number one thing, we've talked about this a lot, but I think the news that came out today about inflation, we need to reiterate I-bonds. Okay, it sounds like super boring, but go get some I-bonds because they're going to pay, they guarantee to pay the previous 6 months of interest, which was measured by, Ben, help me out there, Department of Labor, Economics, blah, 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 whoever measures it. But it was
Are you saying
7.12 for the last 6 months. It's probably going to be high again for the subsequent 6 month period because today's measure for CPIU came out. Help me out.
6.8?
6 point. Yeah, I think it was.
Maybe I'm wrong.
No, yes,
Thought I
you're
saw
right.
6.8.
Inflation rate 6.8, November 2021.
It's the
Highest since
US
June of 82.
It's the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Nice. The
Burrow.
Oh, you're talking the BLS.
Gotcha.
Like
Thank
good-
you.
The good old BLS.
I like it. Awesome. So that's a big one. So the I-bonds, it looks like it because the guarantee interest is for 6 months. But but they look back each subsequent 6 months, and I don't know exactly what that period covered, but I would think it would be in the following 6, which means we might get a full year of really good interest in the I-bonds. So again, I just wanted to reiterate that. Here's a couple of things we've learned since the last time we talked. You can get one for each social security number, one for you. If you have a spouse, get one for your spouse, 10,000 a piece. That's 20,000 per year. You can even get them as gifts to your children. If you have a business and your business has an EIN number, you can get one for your business. It's a separate entity. You can get one for your business. If you get a tax refund in 2020, tax year 2021, you can take that tax refund up to $5,000 and get more I-bonds. So that's something to think about. I don't know that we mentioned that before. What do y'all have to add on that?
Just real quick, and you may have mentioned this, but you cannot touch that money for the first 12 months.
Right.
You can't. 12 months in a day, then you can get the money out. But you sacrifice a little bit of interest if you take it out right away. But, or what is it, before 5 years, I think? You sacrifice a little, like 3 months.
Just the
of interest.
last 3 months, yeah.
But still, I just want to throw that out there. Emergency fund, what do you guys think? Is it good for that? It's good for maybe if you're not going to use it for a year, but my only thought is I don't want people to think it's an emergency. They can then get to it if they need to, because 12 months they can't.
Yeah, I think a gradual approach. I love it for emergency fund.
Yeah.
Like a
second
gradual
tier
approach
or
again.
something.
Yeah, layer it in there so that eventually after that year you can touch it and don't have the money you need within the year in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Good ones. Okay.
That's a
We
good one.
talked
The
about-
only other thing I want to
Yeah.
throw in there,
Throw it.
I-bonds, because I love talking I-bonds after you guys have been so good at throwing it at us, is there's two parts to it. The inflation part, the I stands for inflation, and then there's the fixed rate. So the two parts, you can never go less than zero on that. So if we happen to get in a deflationary environment, you're still at real purchasing power. You're always going to be making money on that. So I think that's important.
That's
all I
awesome.
got.
The other thing, it's a good time of the year to look at unrealized losses in your taxable brokerage account. This is a non-IRA, non-401k. A lot of you out there invest in either Schwab or Fidelity or whatever brokerage, and you just have mutual funds, ETFs, stocks, whatever. It's a great time to look and go, hey, do I have any losers in there somewhere that you also want to get rid of? Don't just sell. If it's a good holding, you like it, you don't have to sell it necessarily, but tax loss harvesting is a really valuable thing to take the time to do. And this is the time of year to do it. You've got about 2 weeks by the time this podcast comes out to go check out your holdings. If you have some, and for instance, let me give an example, a stock. Let's say a stock, let's say an airline stock. You have that is down. I don't know if they're down or what this year, but let's say one of them is down. Sell the individual holding and then go back and buy the ETF, airline ETF or something. Now, those of you that are true, like I love stocks, I got to have individual stocks, and don't obviously whatever, but I think an ETF is better anyway. It's a little more diversified. So you can capture that capital loss, which you can deduct from your ordinary income up to $3,000 a year, which is great. For those of you in a 32% marginal tax bracket, that's about $1,000 of tax savings, which is pretty good. And again, you're clearing out doing some house cleaning in your portfolio as well. So those are some things on tax loss harvesting. Just a quick example of how that can be really valuable. What do y'all have to add?
That's great. And I think one other piece of that is offsetting your gains. You can also, if it turns out in your favor, you can write off $3,000 of that against ordinary income. So $3,000 could possibly offset your ordinary income tax, which is fantastic, although you did lose money. So it's not like it's a great thing, but it's making the best of a bad situation.
Yeah, and just to pile on, if you sell something that's low, now here's the rule. Let me get a little more specific. You cannot sell something at a loss and then buy that exact same thing back again immediately and deduct the loss. The IRS will disallow that loss. But you can sell, let's say it's a mutual fund, let's say it's a growth type mutual fund. You can sell that growth type mutual fund and buy a different mutual fund, something that's substantially different. And there's a little bit more to that, but it's got to be a little different. Then you get to deduct the loss either against another capital loss or, like Rob, you just said, your ordinary income. And you can buy something a little different right back. And potentially there is no loss. Potentially there is no investment loss. So that's part of the benefit potentially, depending on what you buy back and when. So there's a lot of little rules to that, but it can be a really valuable strategy.
I love it.
Good time of the year to review that. Ben, what you got?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you're gonna have to pay capital gains on your crypto as well. So deduct some of those losses in there as well. They're down right now. Charlie called the top. So just saying, if you're, let's say you're up big, might be a good time to sell out.
Now, you may know this, Ben. You may be ready to comment. If you're not, I'll just delete it. We'll have Tyler delete it. No big deal.
All right.
But the wash rules do not apply to Bitcoin, correct? So in other words, I could sell, if I'm down, I buy it right back.
Yeah.
In other words, I could buy the exact same thing right back, right?
From my understanding, yes, there is no such thing as the wash rule. So I want to say yes. They could just somehow close that up though, which they probably will soon. But
okay,
yeah,
just say yes. We love it.
Oh,
yes,
gosh.
Delete it.
Yes.
All right, cool.
Just say yes. We'll move on.
I'll try it out and let you guys know if I get arrested.
If the moon was made of cheese, would you eat it?
Staring contest.
So that's important. Do you have investments in taxable accounts that are subject to end of year capital gain distribution? If so, consider strategies to minimize your tax liability. That's where we would come into play. The other thing I want to add, since we're talking about assets and debt issues, is if you happen to be over 72 or you are inherited an IRA, make sure you have the RMDs, all the required minimum distributions. You've taken those, because if not, the penalties are substantial. I think it's 50%. And there's ways to get around that, but you don't want to even deal with that. So make sure you're doing that. That was my only
Absolutely.
other thing on the asset and debt issues.
That's a good one. RMDs are huge. And we go to great lengths to try to keep track of all those for all of our clients, make sure that nobody gets missed or misses their RMD, et cetera, because it is costly. 50% of the RMD is the tax penalty. One of the things, speaking of taxes, if I may, is it a good time to talk about
let's
that?
jump into taxes. That's
No,
Taxes.
Can I say something really quick with RMDs though?
Cowboy,
I hate to jump back in, but
Cowboy.
RMDs, we had a situation with a client recently where they had a family member that had not been taking their RMDs and didn't realize it. So I'll just say, if you have any elderly folks in your family that you're helping out, and you ask them, make sure they've taken their RMDs because they realized it. It's not a good situation. They're losing about half of that RMD.
Yep.
So that's
Good call.
Just throwing that out there.
Excellent.
And I guess since we're talking about it, I might as well hit it pretty hard here. RMDs from multiple IRAs can generally be aggregated. However, RMDs from inherited IRAs can't be aggregated with traditional. We can talk more about that at a later podcast. RMDs from employer retirement plans generally must be calculated and taken separately.
Nice.
Just keep those two things in mind.
Good knowledge.
That's
Good knowledge. So taxes, and I'm not sure that I've got a good solution. Maybe we could think of a good solution. This is just more like a warning. From what I've heard, we've talked to a lot of pilots, a lot of different airlines. It seems like to me they're making a lot of money this year, maybe because there's more double time, there's more reacting going on from the airlines and paying overtime, I should say, or premium, whatever the heck you call it at the other airlines. And so be ready to pay more taxes, because sometimes the withholdings don't keep up with the money that you're making. Sometimes just depends on what your withholdings are. But I've seen people get hammered and they're like, oh, I wasn't withholding enough. I made a tremendously more amount than the previous year and I got hammered with taxes. Okay, that's a possibility. Think about what you've made, what your withholdings are. Now, you can't go back and change your withholdings at this point in time, but you can mentally prepare to pay for those taxes. And you can estimate by looking at your pay stub, how much income have I made? How much taxes has been withheld? You can do some rough math there, and we can help with that if you'd like. The other thing I think is going to really surprise people, Cowbell, is the child tax credit.
Oh, yeah.
You were falling asleep on me, so I thought I'd wake you up. Yeah. The
dozed
child
off
tax
for
credit.
Taxes.
They did it.
Come on.
They
Why
did
am I
a
just-
Listeners probably
where
were
am I?
too.
they did a switcheroo this year, and I think it caught all of us off guard. It definitely caught me off guard because all of a sudden I had a child tax credit check in my bank account from the IRS. I was like, wait a second. What the heck? You usually get a tax credit during tax time. And so here's what's going to happen. Since I've been getting it a little bit all along now, I'm not going to get that child tax credit at tax time. So I'm going to pay more taxes. And this is a confusing topic, but I just want to try to get the word out. Be ready to pay more taxes, because especially if you're an airline guy or gal that's been working a lot of extra in 2021 and your withholdings didn't keep up and you have kids, you have 2 or 3, 4 kids, that child tax credit is huge. Even if you're making more than, I think it phases out above 400. So most of our airline people are receiving the child tax credit.
Yeah, and that's a big one too. To your
Yeah.
point there, that some airline folks are making more money, is that child tax credit. They may be getting that tax credit right now and receiving that money, but they may not actually be getting it or qualify for it. So they're
Yep.
going to have to pay that back, which is going to
Yep.
be even.
Great
What it
point. That is a great point. And those are both could be nasty, nasty surprises. Now, again, not much you can do maybe right now, except just don't buy your family or your kids Christmas gifts or something. Just tell them you're.
Tell them they didn't make it on the good list.
Good old
They didn't
Uncle
make it on the nice
Scrooge,
list.
Charlie.
Tell them Christmas is canceled. That's the only other thing I can think of. I don't know.
Ouch.
Christmas is
This
canceled until
podcast just
morale
went from the
improves.
best. Yeah, exactly. There goes Christmas.
Yep. That's good. Whatever
Kids
doesn't kill
aren't
you
worth-
makes you
yeah.
stronger.
Your kids aren't worth as much this year. They're just not.
Mm.
You got to pay it back.
Kid, get that tax credit back and I'll get you something.
I don't think we have a lot of kid listeners yet. I think we're okay.
Not yet. Our demographics doesn't look like it on the charts.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're-
But hey, speaking of which, so we've got a lot of really good feedback lately. So keep that
Yeah.
coming. We want negative feedback too. If you
No.
got it.
Yeah.
Except, except Ben. Don't say
Not
it to Ben.
yet. Don't give us negative feedback yet. There's
I
nothing
can't
we can do
handle
about
it
it anyway.
just yet.
Can't handle it.
We're not,
Executive
wait till
producer.
Tyler gets that full up and then give us negative feedback and we can make some
Yeah.
changes. But right now,
Yeah.
we're doing the best we can.
Keep
Hey,
it coming. Keep it
I
coming.
got something about this end of year stuff. Can I throw something out there?
Yes.
All right.
You
I
have
got
the
one that
floor.
I think end of the year time is a great time. If you're confused about where your accounts are, you have to check it. You have to sign in all these different places. You lose your password. You got to reset it just to check what's going on. It's a good time this year to simplify your accounts by rolling over that old 401k from the place you worked right out of college. Go ahead and just roll that over into your IRA. Maybe it's if you got something at Vanguard, you got something at Schwab, and you want to all at one place, make it easier on yourself. And it's a great time to do that. Quick phone calls to these places. They know what you're trying to do and they'll help you out. I'll also say, check your beneficiaries. Great time to check your beneficiaries into the year. And if you have minor children, and this is just a generality on when you have these beneficiaries with minor children, you want to make sure that you understand what your will says about who has guardianship or who would have custodianship over these accounts that you have your children listed as beneficiaries on. So make sure one thing that Schwab told us is that you can actually send in the part about your will that says who would be the guardian of your children if something were to happen to you, and they will actually make sure that your accounts are set up so that it happens the way it says in your will and there's no conflicts or anything like that. But your children, if they're under 18, these accounts just can't go into their name. There has to be a custodian on the account, and Schwab or whoever, Vanguard, Fidelity, they will name a custodian if you don't have one named. So you want to make sure that you let them know who that wants to be. Talk with your estate attorney, see what it says in the will, see how that would conflict, and then get that information to the right people so that they can make sure it goes to the right places.
Along those lines, that's good stuff, Ben. I think along the estate planning issues that we're talking about there, make sure you just think about, have there been any changes to your family heirs, or have you bought or sold any assets this year that you want to have that fall under your estate planning documents and strategy there? And then also the gifts. Are there any gifts that still need to be made this year? If so, gifts up to the annual exclusion of $15,000 per year per person per donee are gift tax free. So if you got some of those gifts, which Christmas time's perfect time for that. So
gift them some
like
bonds.
Charlie said, Christmas has not been canceled. It's back on.
Christmas is back on. Okay.
Yeah. What do you got, Charlie?
That's a great, man, Ben. That is the most important thing I think that anybody can do at any time is just check those things out. Understand what's going to happen if something happens to you. And it's really not easy. It's amazing how muddy those waters can get really quickly. One website I was reading the other day, it was an attorney, elder care attorney's website. It basically said, do not put minors as beneficiaries. Now we're not attorneys, so I don't really know the pros and cons of all that. But Ben, like you said, minors cannot have normal investment accounts like we can. They have to be custodial accounts, and that's the law. The other thing is minors cannot inherit life insurance. You can't put a minor beneficiary in a life insurance policy. So think about if something were to happen to you or you and your spouse simultaneously date night, you need to have in your will who's going to take care of the minor children, and that would be a guardian, kind of I think is the legal term for that, and then who's going to be the custodian of the money. They can be the same person, different people. You can have a trust to be established at your death, and that I believe is called a testamentary trust. So at the simultaneous death, that could happen.
Sorry, Joe, I was going to just jump in here and put a plug into it. If you guys are thinking about a lot of this stuff, refer to our I'm Dead Now What series. That's podcast 11, 12, and 13, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of what kicked off the research about minor children as beneficiaries, because it's not as clear cut as I thought it would be. But anyway, just make sure those are consistent. Make sure your will is consistent with your beneficiaries. Make sure your custodian, in this case, we use Schwab, so make sure Schwab knows. Because if something happens and there's no clear direction, Schwab goes to their legal department, they put on their detective hats, and they go to work. And whatever happens may or may not be in line with what you wanted to happen.
Yeah, that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. Circling back to some tax planning issues, if you guys are okay with that. One of the questions you need to ask yourself at the end of the year here is, do you expect your income to increase in the future? If so, then consider doing some Roth contributions to your Roth IRA. Do you have those cut buckets filled up? Do you have your 401k bucket filled up? That 402 limit. They're the 19,500 this year, which I think is going up next year. Am I right on that? 20,000?
20,500.
500. Yeah. So that's good stuff. Make sure you have those buckets filled up if you can. And if you're over 59 and a half, you can consider accelerating traditional IRA withdrawals to fill up those lower tax brackets, if you will. If you expect your income to decrease in the future, and you should consider strategies to minimize your tax liability, such as traditional Roth IRAs and the 401k contributions. So Roth versus traditional, obviously, we're going to make more or less in the future. And then the final one we kind of already talked about, do you have any capital losses for this year, carry forwards from prior years? Now's the time to be thinking about that. And again, that $3,000 you might be able to carry forward. Well, I guess we touched on that. Charlie, I know a lot about this, but carrying forward those losses, actually Kevin's, I guess, the guru on that, but carrying forward those losses is sometimes very advantageous, right?
Oh yeah, huge. So if you get a large capital loss for whatever event, even a loss on a investment house or rental or something, you can carry forward that loss indefinitely. But a couple of things that you mentioned there, I just want to elaborate on a little bit real quickly. You talked about bringing traditional IRAs. It's got to be deductible, obviously, to reduce your income. So most likely you're going to be looking at the pre-tax 401k if you want to utilize that in the situation you said there.
Good call. Yeah.
The limits to deduct a traditional IRA are pretty low, which brings us to a great point. We believe, according to what's going on in Congress and the Senate right now, that the Roth conversions or the backdoor Roth, meaning you're converting after-tax IRA to Roth. We believe that's going. What can you do? This may be something to think about at the beginning of the year because a lot of people do the backdoor Roth. It's been very, very advantageous. I think we would all agree that one of the next best places to go, which we covered on our previous podcast, which was QRC, savings checklist, something.
Quick reaction checklist,
savings priorities. It would be the taxable brokerage account is a great place to go if you filled up your 401k, if you filled up some of the other things that we talked about or that are important to you. Because the backdoor Roth is gone, the after-tax IRA, if you're in a high income, you're in your 50s, mid-50s, which a lot of our audience is, it's not as advantageous as it used to be because you're not getting a tax deduction. You can't convert to Roth. You're going to withdraw that money. It's going to be ordinary income taxes. And so there's a lot of evidence that shows the next best place to go would be a taxable brokerage account for tax diversification, a lot of the other things that we talked about on that last podcast.
Oh, that's good. I like it. If you're charitably inclined and want to reduce your taxes, for taxpayers who claim the standard deduction, you're allowed a deduction of $300 or $600 if you're married filing jointly for cash contributions to certain qualifying charities in 2021. And you want to explore those tax-efficient funding strategies, such as gifting appreciated securities or making QCDs. So think about all that good stuff. And then the other thing I think is important here is if you're one of the lucky few who receive a windfall of either RSUs, vesting, stock options, bonuses, inheritance, then you want to just review your tax withholdings to determine if your estimated payments may be required. We won't go into QCDs, the QBI, the qualified business income deduction. If you know what that is, review it. If you don't know what it is, don't worry about it. And then another big part here that I know we were going to talk about, I might be stealing your thunder here, Charlie, but is 529 accounts. Do you want to contribute to a 529? If so, consider the following. You can just that gift tax is $15,000, so you can give that per person. So if they have
Oh, Rob, you muted yourself.
How did I do that? I don't even know how I did that.
I think I got to confess, I think I did that.
You muted me. Oh,
I went to mute myself and I hit your button. And I'm sorry, I was trying to call.
That's awesome. No, I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that strategy in the future. Then you're muted.
They can't hear me and I can't hear him. Weird.
I don't know what's the last thing you heard? 529s?
Yeah, start with the 529.
All right. You can contribute to your 529, and just like that, $15,000 gift tax, it falls under that. So if my wife and I, Jana, want to give our son as most we can for his 529, we can give him 15,000 for me, 15,000 for her, and that's just for him. If we wanted to give it to, if I had another son, which I don't, but
I'm glad you clarified. I was going to ask.
And then the alternative is you can lump sum that contribution of up to 75,000 to the beneficiaries, and I like to treat that as if it were made evenly over the 5-year period, gift tax free. Charlie,
75 per parent,
right?
So 150 grand total if you wanted to. I don't know many people that have done that, but when estate tax exclusion rates come down, they're on the docket to do so. This is going to be a much, much more utilized strategy, because 529s are awesome, not just for college, but they are the only thing that you can fund. It's out of your estate, but you still have control over. Anything else that you get out of your estate or you give away, now that's out of your estate, and there's some very definite definitions of what's included in my estate and what is subject to estate taxes. 529 is the only one that you have control over after you give it away, which is pretty cool, because most of the time we're talking about our kids, they're going to go to college or not, what's going to happen. I can take the money back if I want to and use it to buy a car. Of course, there's penalties and taxes, but
there's penalties and taxes. And I want everyone who's listening to this podcast right now, rewind it 30 seconds and listen to what Charlie just said again, because that's so important. The control of that piece, I think is really, really important.
Yep.
What else you guys got?
Hey, my checklist is, I don't have anything in my checklist anymore.
Is checklist complete?
I think we checked every box.
Checklist complete. All right.
I could say we review your goals for next year and reflect on this year, but that we talked about that in flight 20. So it's a little too touchy-feely for this one.
Yeah, that's right. I don't want to go there.
It's not, we don't want to
emotional.
Yeah.
That's going to be that's going to be the next one though, Ben. Ben, we're going to talk about the magic of setting goals.
Yes.
In our next podcast for the new year, how not to screw up your New Year's resolutions and not be a dork like everybody else and give up on the New Year's resolutions within 6 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah.
We know how to we can brainwash you into basically accomplishing anything you want to. We know how to do it. We found the way.
We can manipulate for the good.
Found this old book in the reserved section of the library that told me this secret.
Oh, instant influence. I love it. All right. Well, that's it. Are you guys ready for some quotes?
Ready?
Yes.
Oh, hey, Ben, we got to put these quotes in the show notes too. And
yeah.
And let's make sure we get those in.
I'll transcribe them while you're talking.
Here we go. I love money. I love everything about it. I bought some pretty good stuff. Got me a $300 pair of socks, got a first sink, an electric dog polisher, a gasoline-powered turtleneck sweater, and of course, I bought some dumb stuff too. That's Steve Martin.
Nice.
This one's from Christopher Rice. Every day is a bank account, and time is our currency. No one is rich. No one is poor. We've got 24 hours each. That's it. We've arrived at our final destination. Let us be the first to welcome you to the end of Flight 22. Thank you for joining us here at the Pilot Money Guys podcast. If you have any questions or like anything answered on the show, shoot me an email at robert@leadingedgeplanning.com or sign up for our newsletter at leadingedgeplanning.com. If you liked what you heard, please hit that subscribe button so we can reach more people. And remember, as Emerson said, the world makes way for those who know where they are going, so plan accordingly. From all of us here at Leading Edge, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Thank you for listening to the Pilot Money Guys podcast. It has been our pleasure to share some information with you today. Give us a call to discuss absolutely any investment question you may have. Click on the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit leadingedgeplanning.com to learn more. Take care. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Leading Edge Financial Planning, LLC. Leading Edge Financial Planning, LLC, Leading Edge, is a registered investment advisor. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where Leading Edge and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. The information provided is for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice and should not be relied on as such. It should not be considered a solicitation to buy or an offer to sell a security. It does not take into account any investor's particular investment objectives, strategies, tax status, or investment horizon. You should consult your attorney or tax advisor. The views expressed in this commentary are subject to change based on market and other conditions. These documents may contain certain statements that may be deemed forward-thinking statements. Please note that any such statements are not guarantees of any future performance, and actual results or developments may differ materially from those projected. Any projections, market outlooks, or estimates are based upon certain assumptions and should not be construed as indicative of actual events that will occur. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.